That's a big advantage too.
If a child fails out of this program, how is that handled then? What happens to them if they don't follow all the requirements of the juvenile civil citation? What happens then? Where do we go from there?
Well, then the Crosswinds would refer the case to the state attorney's office, and the state attorney's office has a decision then whether to start the prosecution from scratch. So the state attorney has the ability to do that. So there is no benefit to the juvenile if they don't do as they're told. They're actually going to be sent back to the court system and be treated as they would had there not been a civil citation process to begin with. So they're not getting away with anything when they don't do as they're told.
So we've talked about the Crosswinds, we've talked about the Juvenile Assessment Center and the Civil Citation Program. We've talked about kind of how it works from the court's perspective, from the public defender's perspective, and Crosswinds. When we come back, we're going to talk with Deputy Chief Bobby Jones of the Cocoa Police Department. We're going to get the police officer on the street's perspective on how the juvenile civil citation works and what impact it can have from the law enforcement side. And we appreciate your time and attention tonight, and we'll be back in just a minute. Thank you.
I'm John Walsh, host of America's Most Wanted. Since 1988, I've worked with the public and law enforcement to bring closure and justice to the victims of crime. During that time, I've seen firsthand how well-trained law enforcement officers can make our cities and communities a safe and secure place to live. Behind every patch, there's a trained professional, a guardian of public safety, a defender of justice and fairness, a first responder to all types of emergencies, a person committed to make their community a better place to live, work, and visit. If you're looking for a career where you can make a difference and you have the necessary integrity, honesty, discipline, and commitment, consider a career as a law enforcement officer in Brevard County, Florida. Call or visit the Brevard Criminal Justice Center on the Melbourne campus of Brevard Community College for further information and requirements. Women and minorities are encouraged to apply. And remember, you can make a difference in Brevard County.
Welcome back. With me now is Deputy Chief Bobby Jones of the Cocoa Police Department. We're going to talk for a few minutes about the Juvenile Civil Citation Program, and we're going to try to get the law enforcement officer's perspective on how this program works. And there was a lot of work that went into putting this program together from the law enforcement side. The logistics of putting together even the process of doing the paperwork and training involved that the officers need to know how this program works. Bobby, talk to us for a minute about the work that went into putting this program together.
Well, it was a collective effort with the law enforcement agencies, juvenile, Crosswinds Youth Services. We came together, and one of the biggest points that we had to get across to the police officers is that we wanted them to understand that they're going to have an option out there instead of locking the juvenile up and taking them to the juvenile detention center. One of the components that we did was train. We went to every different law enforcement agencies, and we had in-depth training on the juvenile assessment program and how the citation program was going to work. And so far, we've had some great success stories that came out of the program.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about the last couple of guests is, how a kid can get into the program. When an officer on the street encounters what they think is a situation that would meet this criteria, what's the officer looking for? Is it the attitude of the juvenile? Is it the parents' involvement? What are we looking for when we run into a situation like this?
I think first we got to look at the crime that the juvenile committed or is going to be charged with. And then officers they're looking at the attitude of the juvenile and the status. I mean, what's their status in school? Are they doing really good in school? What's their future look like? And it's a great opportunity for the officers to use some discretion to as an alternate means of arresting an individual. And I think also when you arrest a juvenile, it takes so long to go through the system. Mm-hmm. This is immediate intervention for the juvenile that they have 7 days and they're answering for the crime that they committed. And that's what a lot of officers really like about the juvenile citation program, that is immediately that the parents are involved, they have to be involved, and the kids are answering for their crimes because they made mistakes, and now they have a second chance to go on with their life and to maybe get that education and understand from their mistakes that they made.
Get their life back together.
Yeah.
Parents are probably asking if your child is involved in a criminal situation where a police officer responds and is conducting an investigation, does this mean that they're not going to be handcuffed and probably hauled off someplace, or is there something different that happens there?
No, not necessarily. The individual still could be handcuffed and taken down to the police department, and the parents call, tell them to come down. They can be given the civil citation at the police department. The officers would then go in detail on what the parents need to do. They have seven days from the date of the citation and be in contact with the Crosswinds Youth Services to set up their initial appointment.
Okay, so once a child is issued a juvenile civil citation, they've got 7 days. The parents have 7 days to get involved in this, contact Crosswinds and Juvenile Assessment Center, and make appointments and those kind of things. When we get past that point, and now the officer has brought the child in, they've done an investigation, the officer's still doing a full investigation just like they normally would.
Yeah, they have to, just in case the juvenile does not successfully complete the program, then the case is going to be referred back to the state attorneys for prosecution. So they're going to have to continue to work the whole case out from A to Z.
Excellent. I wanted to make sure that parents understood that just because that the officer starts talking about a juvenile assessment or a juvenile civil citation, that doesn't mean the officer doesn't do a criminal investigation and do all the proper reports and things of that nature. This doesn't short circuit that requirement on the officer's part.
Not at all.
And it still puts that case out there. That's why it's important that the parents work with their child to make sure that they do all the requirements of the program so that ultimately the record is clear and their child has a second chance.
Yeah, and I could tell you we had a great success story from the city of Cocoa where we had an A student that was involved in a domestic violence within her household. And now when you're involved in domestic violence, if you put your hands on a brother's or sister's mother, you go to jail. Right. And here was an A student that had a bright future that would have had that stigma of arrest on their record. But with the juvenile citation program came in, and the individual doing very well on the program, very level-headed young female, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those kids that may have made that one mistake or got angry that night, and now they have an avenue where we can come in and they can learn from what happened that night, understand that, and given a free shot to try again and go on with their future.
Good deal. We've talked about Crosswinds and the Juvenile Assessment Center. We've talked about the Juvenile Civil Citation Program. If you have any questions or any concerns about how you can get involved in helping out, if you're a business organization, please contact Crosswinds. We'll put their email address and their website up on the screen, so you'll have that information. You can always contact the Public Defender's Office, but please contact Crosswinds directly if you have any questions or if you want to help. And as always, we appreciate your attention and time tonight, and thank you for joining us on Behind the Badge.
Crime Line, 1-800-423-TIPS. We pay cash for crooks. No names, no faces, no hassles. Call us day or night. You're eligible for up to a $1,000 reward if we use your tip to make an arrest. Crimes happen every day in our community. You know they are wrong, but do you care enough to do something about it? Call the Anonymous Tips Hotline today, 1-800-423-TIPS.